In this video course, we will learn the concepts of Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a free front-end framework to create responsive website design. Therefore, if you want to create a responsive website, you need to learn Bootstrap and its components. In this course, we'll be learning using a live running code platform wherein the screen size would also be visible. That would allow you to run your code on a laptop, tablet, and even a cell phone. With that, we have also provided all the codes for download. We have covered the following lessons in our Bootstrap course. Let us begin with the first lesson. Let's start. Hello guys, in this video we will learn about Bootstrap, its introduction and overview. With that we will learn about its features and the new version, that is Bootstrap 5. So let's begin. So Bootstrap is basically one of the most popular framework of the web pillars in web development, that is HTML, CSS and JavaScript. It is completely free and it provides a quicker web development framework. It allows you to create a responsive website. So what is a responsive website? It is a website that automatically adjusts themselves on all devices, including your mobile phone, smaller mobile phones, tablet, desktop, etc. It supports the modern web browsers. With that, it is having a mobile first approach. That is, the mobile first styles are part of the core framework of Bootstrap. It was developed in 2011 by Mark Otto and Jacob. Moving further, the current version is Bootstrap 5. So it released last year, 2021. It has come up with new components and styles. With that, it is more responsive. That is the website created with Bootstrap adjusts itself to phones, tablet, desktops, smaller phones, even larger desktops. It also supports stable releases of all the major browsers and platforms. And with that, Bootstrap 5 has also dropped support for Internet Explorer finally. It has also provided with enhanced API. Okay. It has also added a custom set of SVG icons, that is scalable vector graphics icons, and it is freely available. In this video, we will see how we can set up Bootstrap environment, that is how we can begin with Bootstrap. We'll be looking at the two ways. Let's begin. So to set up Bootstrap, you can download Bootstrap or you can also use CDN. So what are the differences? If you will download Bootstrap from the official website, that is getbootstrap.com, you can host Bootstrap on your server. But if you will be using the second one, that is CDN, Content Delivery Network, in that case you don't need to install anything. You don't need to set up it on your server. CDN will fetch Bootstrap from a server. That is, you don't need to set up it on your system. CDN is basically considered faster than downloading Bootstrap. So this is the first one, that is you can go to getbootstrap.com and host Bootstrap on your server by downloading it. Let's see how. Herein type the website getbootstrap.com, press enter. After pressing enter, you can see the official website is visible. The current version is 5.2, which is right now in beta. Herein you can see beta version. You can directly click on download, or if you want previous versions, you can click here. Okay, and you can download and host it on your server. But I rather prefer going for the second one, that is the CDN, that is Content Delivery Network. In this, you just need to mention the following two lines in your code. That's it. So the first one is a compiled and minified CSS. You need to add it, and after that you need to add the compiled JavaScript. Both these two lines will work for your code, and you don't need to set up Bootstrap on your server, which we saw in the first download Bootstrap section. So we'll be focusing on the second one. Okay, so herein you can see we have used JSDeliver CDN, cdn.jsdeliver.net. So herein you can see JSDeliver welcomes Bootstrap CDN and continues to power Bootstrap. So this is official. Bootstrap switches to JSDeliver for CDN services, and here are the two lines which I told you before. You just need to add these two lines in your code. JSDeliver is the official CDN of Bootstrap. So guys, through this we can easily set up Bootstrap and work around it. In the next video, we'll be seeing how we can add the following in our code. That would be how to run your first Bootstrap code. So guys, in this video we saw how we can set up Bootstrap environment using two ways. The first one was by downloading Bootstrap, and the second is to use the CDN. We'll be preferring the second one, the CDN, in the next video. In the last video, we saw how we can set up Bootstrap. We can download Bootstrap and host on a server, or we can also use CDN. So in this video we will see how we can create our first web page with Bootstrap using CDN. So as I told you, we need to add these two in our code to work with Bootstrap. So let's see an example, live running example. So guys, here is our web page. This is an HTML web page with .html extension. Okay. Initially we added the doc type HTML, which is a must for HTML. Okay, so we need to add this doc type at the beginning of the page with the lang attribute, the title as well as the character set. Okay, the following, these lines. Okay, so we started the HTML tag, we added the lang, that is the language. The head tag, within that we have a title attribute in HTML. Okay, we added the title Bootstrap example. Then we added the character set. Okay, after that guys, since Bootstrap is basically designed to be responsive on mobile devices, okay, so to ensure rendering and touch zooming, you need to add the following meta tag inside the head element. That is, inside the head element we added the following meta tag. Okay, herein we added the viewport. Herein we added width is equal to device hyphen width. Basically this part sets the width of the page to follow the screen width of the device. Okay, this will also vary depending on your device, whether it's a desktop, a tablet, a mobile. The initial hyphen scale is equal to 1 is used to set the initial zoom level when the page is first loaded by the browser. After that we added our Bootstrap links, which I told you before. This is the compiled and minified version of Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript. Then guys, we are inside our body tag wherein we will write the code. So the code basically depends on the dot container as well as dot container hyphen fluid classes. What are these? Let's see. So guys, the first one is our fixed width container. Okay, that is the container class which is used to provide a responsive fixed width, which is used to provide a responsive container, that is a responsive fixed width container. The following is the full width. Okay, so the container hyphen fluid class is used to provide a full width container spanning the entire width of the viewport. So imagine this white color is our web page. Okay, within that we have a full width container that spans the entire width of the viewport, and we have a responsive which provides a responsive fixed width container. So when we'll see the example, we will understand it in a better way. Let's see. Okay, so these were the two classes. Let's see an example now. First I'll be adding div class is equal to container and then I'll be adding container hyphen fluid class. Okay, so I told you container class basically provides a responsive fixed width container. So within that, let's say I'll be adding so I added h1, h2 and a paragraph tag with some sample code. Okay, now moving further, I'll add the same here for our example. Okay, so now we have our container class and container fluid class. Now when I'll run it, so herein you can see the first one was our container class, that is responsive. Okay, and the second spans the entire width of the viewport, that is container fluid class is the following. It spans the entire width of the viewport, the entire web page. Imagine this as a web page. When I'll drag it, you can see the difference on responsive as well. Okay, so through this you can easily work around Bootstrap pages. That is how to create a web page using Bootstrap. So guys, in this video we saw how we can work around Bootstrap web pages, how we can create it. We also saw the two containers used in Bootstrap. The two containers, that is Bootstrap also requires a containing element to wrap site contents. It has two container classes, that is container, dot container and dot container hyphen fluid. In this video, we'll be learning about grids in Bootstrap. So a grid in Bootstrap basically creates a responsive design and allow you to divide a web page into 12 columns. So here you can see 12 columns in a web page is a responsive grid. And to create a group of columns, you need to use the rows class as we have seen here. So to understand the concept of grids and these 12 columns, let's see an image. Here you can see, let's say this is a web page and the container is of fixed width. So here you can see the page is divided into 12 columns. Above you can see you can add a banner with 12 columns. Below that with the new row you can add left sidebar here or right sidebar here or footer here with 12 columns. So the total should be 12 columns. This makes a responsive grid. Now let's see an example of a live website. Here you can see a live website. The first one is banner. Let's say this is 12 column website. Banner is of 12 column. Moving further, we have thumbnail image. Let's say it is of 9 column and the right sidebar is of 3 column, making it 12 column completely. So this is also a responsive grid. Now a responsive grid will have 5 classes in it. The first one is a column class, which is for extra small device less than 576px. The next one is column SM. SM is for small, that is for small devices that would be greater than 576px but less than 768px. The next one is column MD, which is for medium devices greater than 768px but less than 992px. The next one is column LG. This is for large devices. This is for devices with more than 992px width and less than 1200px. And the last one would be XL, which is extra large. As the name suggests, it would be for more than 1200px devices. Now we will see the examples. So here is the example. Firstly, you can see the first part is div class is equal to container for a fixed width website. If you want a website with full width, you need to use container fluid. Now moving further, this is the heading. This is a row class. As we saw before that if you need to create a group of columns, you need to use the row class. Here we have grouped 2 columns. First one we are showing for extra small devices, which we have seen before. Extra small device is for devices less than 576px. So let's see it. For less than 576px, here we have used 2 classes, which makes the total of 12. That would create a section which will have 2 columns. The first one would be for 33%, next one would be for 66%. So now we will see what will happen when we will run it. I've run it. The size right now is 504px, and for devices 576px less than 576px is your extra small device. Here you can see the section is divided into 33% in one and 66% in two because we used column 3 here, column 9 on the right side. Now let's change it to 6. It will divide it into 50%. As you can see, now it is divided into 50% completely. Now moving further, we will go for the extra large devices. We have added the class row again because a row is a group of columns. Now under that we have added column XL and the right one is width, making the total as 12. Here the total is 12. Now again it will divide it into 33% and 66%, but on a larger device. That would be extra large device more than 1200px. So let's change the size of the web page. The size of the web page is now 1236px, and you can see extra large devices. The first one is divided into 33% and the second part is divided into 66%. Now if I'll just change it to less than 1200, here you can see it has stacked it again completely. So I'll change it to more than 1200px now, and on extra large devices 2 columns would be visible like this. Now do some changes to make the concept more clear. I'll change it to 9 and 3. Now the left hand side column would be having 66% of space and the right one will have 33% of space. Now let's run it. Now I'll drag it to more than 1200px because we are considering extra large devices. Now you can see the one is visible at a width which is more than the second one because we have given 66% to the left part and 33% to the right part, which is 9 on the left, 3 on the right. Now let's move on the other part. We have a new row again. Here we will discuss about the large device, medium as well as small device. Move further. For large devices we have set it as 1 and total is 12 columns. So it will be having 12 equal size columns for large devices, which is large devices is having greater than 992px, greater than equal to 992px size, and less than 1200px. So let's see it. I'll set it to more than 992px and let's see what happens. Here now the size is 1102, which is more than 992px. Now you can see all our grades are with 12 equal columns. So now let's move further. For column MD2, MD is your medium device. The size for it was medium. It was greater than equal to 768px and it will be less than 992. So for greater than 768px, let's see the MD class. This is our MD class. We have added sections here. So it would be having 2 into 6 is 12. Total is 12 columns. So it would be having 6 equal columns if the width of the web page is more than 768px. So now let's see. Width of the page is now 821px and you can see 6 equal size columns have been created here because we have set column MD2 for all. Now moving to the last part, column SM4. This is the smaller grid. The size would be greater than 576px and less than 768px because above 768 it would be MD for medium devices. So greater than 576px, let's go for it. And you can see we have set 4 here because it will now create 4 into 3 12, 3 equal size columns and all the elements will stack if the size is above 576px. So now let's run it. Now the size is 650px, which is above the 576px breakpoint. Here you can see, as I said before, 3 equal columns are created with 4 elements. 4 into 3 is 12. It would make 12 columns. We can see how grid structure work in Bootstrap. This is a great concept to create amazing responsive websites for all the devices. These devices cover basically your laptops, tablets, smaller cell phones, your laptop with 13-inch screen, laptop with 15-inch screen and other things. So this is the breakpoints we can add. Covering the last part, here you can see I've added bg-info, bg-danger classes here. This is to give a background color to the sections. bg-info is a background for adding additional info and it will give a color. bg-danger is having red color in the sense bg-info, bg-warning, you can set secondary as well. Primary is for primary information and it will give blue color. For example, 6th one is having blue color, 9 is primary, it is having blue color. Let's say we can see for 2 is having orange color, 5 is having orange color for warning. So in this case, we have added these classes also to make the differences of a grid clear. So in this video, we learned about all the concepts of grids in Bootstrap. It is having a 12 column structure to create a responsive grid. It is having 5 classes that would be extra large, medium, small, and extra small. Then your MD class, then your smaller class, through which you can easily stack your website correctly, create a banner with 12 columns, create a left sidebar with 6 columns, and a right sidebar with 6 columns, or a left sidebar with 4 columns, middle body part with 4 columns, and the right side with 4 columns, making it completely a 12 column stacked order. In this video, we'll be learning about how you can create a button on a web page using Bootstrap. It has various classes. Here you can see some classes include and give you an option to add colored buttons, add a button to add success action. You can also add a button to add a warning message or a danger message. With that, you can also create a button which looks like a link but still has the properties of a button. With that, you can create a smaller button, a larger button, a button with a size larger than the default button size. With these classes, you can also create active buttons. With that, you can also show that a button is disabled. With that, you can create a block level button as well that extends the full width of the container. So here what we discussed, we will learn how to add a new button. These are the classes available. We will learn all of them. With that, we have the sizes. This is for large, this is for medium button, small button, and extra small button. With that, we will also learn how to state that the button is active now. Also, we can state that this button is now disabled. For example, the option for clear button you can disable after filling all the fields in a form. You can disable the clear field because now whatever you have entered is final and it's saved. With that, with the last option, you can create a block level button that extends the complete web page, the screen width. So now we will first see how to add a new button. Here you can see a default code. These are the codes which we need to always add. We are using CDN here. Open a container and close it. Inside that we have added a heading as well as the default button. Element to add a button. The type is button, the element is button. In the class we have added this btn. This is to create a basic button. So now after running, you can see on the right the basic button is visible. So now here we have seen the first part, which is .btn. So through this you can easily create a button, basic button. Now moving further, now we will add btn default class to create a default button. Let's run it. So now here you can see both create the same default button. On the right you can see. So now we will move further. Now the option is btn primary, through which you can easily add. Let's add first for a default button. Now next is your primary button, which adds, herein you will get a blue colored button which is different from the default button. This is basically to add primary action to a button. So let's see how we can add it. Here you can see we have written default here. So now I'll add primary here, and let's say I'll add primary button to distinguish it from the default button. I'll run it. On running, now you can see a blue colored button is visible. So you can easily add a blue colored button and provide extra visual appealing factor to a button. Now we will add btn success and btn info button. So this sets the success action on a button. With that, info is to set information, info messages, or you can set an info on a button. So now I'll add success button and I'll copy it again and I'll add now the second one, which is info. Now let's see what happens. I'll run it. Now you can see the success button is having green color as well as info button is having a different color. So through this you can easily add different kinds of button. Now we will look at btn warning, btn danger, as well as a btn link class. Warning action on a button. Here we will set danger action on a button. Make a button look like a link using the btn link class, but it will still work like a button. So now let's focus on the content part. Now I'll copy both and let's distinguish it. Now as discussed before, I'll add warning here, danger here. Now let's change the text as well. Now the last one. I'll add link here to make a button look like a link. Let's add link here. It will work like a button but will look like a link. So now let's run it. Now here you can see warning button will have orange or yellow content color. Danger button will have a red color obviously. And the link is looking like a link but it will work as a button. So this is how we learn different types of button in Bootstrap. Now moving further, here you can see the sizes are visible. This is for large button. This is for medium size button. MD means medium. Let's add medium button. This is for small button. And the extra small would be your XS, which stands for extra small. So now let's run one by one. So let's say I'll just remove it to make things clear. So now we have two buttons only. So here, if I need to add a larger button, I'll add btn LG. So now I'll run it. Here you can see the button is larger than the second button. To make things clear, we have added all the sizes of buttons. This is extra small. Next one is smaller. Medium is bigger than the smaller, and the large one is larger than the medium button. So in this way, you can easily size your buttons by adding the class here. So now let's see, we will need to add the active buttons. How we will add it? Taking the same example. Now if I'll add, let's say active here. Now let's see what happens. It is showing the button is active like this. Now let's remove it. Let's say I'll add LG to it because larger size I want. This is the active button. Now we'll say that how we'll create a disabled button. It's simple. You need to add disabled here. That's it. So I'll copy the same button. Now let's change the text also. Let's add active. Let's add disabled. Now let's run it. Here you can see the button is active and the second one is disabled. You can't click it. Try to click it, you won't be able to click it. What we did, we added active here and disabled for disabled button. Simple. So now let's change this to primary to make it look like a different colored active and disabled button. Now here you can see the color have been changed. The actual primary button is having this color which is active, and the disabled one will look different. Obviously the disabled stuff should look different. Now moving further, now let's go to the last part, which is block level button. To create a block level button, you need to add the class btn block. So let's add it. With that, we will add a normal button to learn about the difference. So I'll remove it here. So we will add 1, 2 to the name, and in that the first one is having a block level button to create a button that extends the screen. On the right you can see one part. The first one has expanded the width and is now on the whole screen. So the second part is a basic button which is not having the block level class, so it will show like this. So now you will say that it is not expanding the complete width because we have added div as container. If I'll add container fluid, which is for full width, it will show like this. Now you can see your button is expanding the complete width of the page because we added container fluid as well as the BTN block button. So through this we learned how to add buttons on a web page using Bootstrap. Coming to the last part, different forms, like different ways through which you can add button. You can add a button on a class. You can also add a button on button we saw before. You can also add it on input. So let's see how. So here you can see we have created 3 buttons using button element, a element as well as input element. So first one we saw before how to add it. Let's run it. The first one is visible as a normal button. The second one we use the a element. We have set the class as btn primary and role as button to create it look like a button. We have added hash here because we are not linking it. If you want to link it, you can easily add a website here. For example, google.com, or you can add your website link. For example, example.com/new.html, and that's it, through which you can easily add it. The third one is input type. You can add input type submit button as you have done before, but for Bootstrap button you need to add a class btn. We have added btn primary here. You can add btn info here or success here, whatever you want the style to be. With that, we have set the value as submit to make the text look like submit. In this video we learned about the concepts of Bootstrap, how to add a new button, all the classes of a Bootstrap button, which all sizes are available, how you can create an active button, how you can show a disabled button. With that, how you can add a block level button. You have more than one way to add a button. We will be learning about button groups, how you can create a group of buttons in Bootstrap. Group of buttons you can say as a series of buttons. You can easily create it using Bootstrap. So here we will learn how to add a new button group. With that, we will learn the following classes that would be used for the same process. With that, we will also learn how we can add a larger sized button group, a smaller size, and an extra small size button group. So let's begin. So here you can see we have a default button under our container class. So now let's add 3 buttons. Now let's name it button 1, button 2, and button 3. Now we will add it under button group class using div. So now we will run it. So here you can see on the right our buttons are stacked accordingly. Our buttons are visible as a series. So in this way you can add a group of buttons, a series of buttons. We can add more buttons as well. Let's say I'll add one more button. I'll name it button 4. We can change the color as well. So now you can see we have added 4 buttons. So now let's say we need to add vertical buttons. These are horizontal buttons. To add vertical buttons, we need to add a new class, bta group vertical. So now you can see the buttons are appearing as vertically. Now we have learned about btn group, Beaten group vertical. Now we learn about beaten group justified. To justify all the button groups, all the buttons in a button group on a page that it spans the entire width, you need to use the BTN group justified class. So now I'll add the justified class. Here you can see I've added the BTN group justified class. Now I'll run it. So now you can see our buttons are in a group but not visible, because when you're using BTN group justified with the button element, you need to wrap each and every button in a button group class. So let's see what I just said. Now I'll wrap it on the BTN group class individually. Now I'll run it. Now here you can see I just said we have solved that issue. We have added BTN group to every button. Now our button is justified on the entire width of the page. So till now we have seen the BTN group classes, BTN group vertical, and BTN group justified class. So now we will see how to add a larger button group, smaller, as well as an extra small button group under the sizes of button group section. So now let's say these are buttons. So now we will add the larger buttons group, BTN group LG for larger buttons. Now you can see the buttons are large. For smaller I'll add SM. Now you can see it is small. And for extra small buttons we will add XS. Now you can see the difference. Now we will just add it again to spot on the difference. The first one is your, let's say I'll start with extra small, then the small, and then the large one. Now you can easily spot the difference between extra small, small, and large button groups. So in this video we saw how to work with button groups, what is the role of button groups, how we can create a series of buttons, how we can add a new button group. We also saw the following classes: BTN group to add a new button group, BTN group vertical to add a vertical button group, and BTN group justified to add a justified button group that spans the entire width of the screen. We also saw that how we can decrease the sizes of a button group. Here we will learn how we can create a new table on a web page. The classes we will be using are table striped. Table striped are used to create a striped table. We will see later. Bordered table, it will add a border to a table. However, you may have seen on some tables on other websites that it shows the hover action when you will mouse over your cursor. So the color of the cell will change on mouse hover. For that you need to use the table hover class. Table dark to create a dark color table. We will see later. To create a borderless table, that is the default one, will have some borders, it will remove it. It won't have any border. These are the contextual classes which you can use for table cells. Primary is can be used to set a cell, table cell with important information. Table success for success action on a table cell. For danger action, add info using table info. Set warning action. Active adds hover color to the cell. Secondary, it adds let's important info. It will add dark gray color to the table. It will add light gray color to the table. With that, to set color on table headers, you need to use the table header class. It will have a dark color, and if you will use light with TD with T head, it will have light color. Now let's move on and create a basic table using the table class. Now you can see this is a sample example of Bootstrap table. Here we have a container class that brings fixed width. With that, S3 tag is for selections, and table element is used with the class table to create a basic table. Header is player name, age, sports. Here on the right you can see, and we have added 3 values, records of 3 players. First is Amit, next is Kevin, and third is Lynette. So now moving further, we have added a table here. You can easily add a table using it. To add more rows, you need to just add the content. Let's say I've added another row. So we can change it to Tom, age, you can add any sample thing, you can add your own content. I'll add table tennis to it. Okay, now I'll run it. Here you can see a table is visible. Now we will add a stripe table. For that, you need to use the table stripe class. I've added a table stripe class with a table class. Now I'll run it. Here you can see the stripe table have been created. Now let's move on to table bordered class. To add a table border, now I'll add table bordered here. Now you can see we have a border to a table. Now I'll add table hover, table dark and borderless. I'll run it. Now on hovering on any cell on any row, it is highlighting it. So this is the role of table hover. Now I'll add borderless. This will remove the basic borders, the default borders. I'll run it. So on adding table borderless, after running, all the borders have been removed. So now we will add the dark class. It will darken the table. Here you can see we have a darkened table now using just a simple class table dark. Now we have reached this section and completed the classes. Now we will add contextual classes to table cell. So let's add it one by one. Starting with the table primary. Now let's change it to the basic one, bordered. Okay, so now I'll go to any cell and let's say here I'll add class is equal to table primary, and let's see the changes. Primary is used to add information. So here you can add information in a table cell. Here you can see it has been changed to primary color. For danger, you need to change it to danger, table danger. That will add a dangerous section. Here you can see. Now for warning, let's say you need to add warning message to a table like do not cross or messages like do not touch. Now the color will change. In the same way, for adding info, we have table info. Color will again change. For the cell, now let's see what all are remaining. We can add active also for hover color, secondary, dark and light. Let's go for it. I'll add active. Now I'll add secondary. To add secondary information, I'll add dark. It will darken my cell, and light. Light will provide a light gray color. On adding table light, here you can see on Amit, light gray color is visible for the player name. Let's add dark again and see the difference, dark. In the same way, you can use table secondary to add less important info. Now I'll just copy it and add primary to it to let's see the difference. Now I'll add info to it, and here I'll add let's say danger if we haven't added it above. Okay, so now I'll run it and see the difference. Here you can see the different colored cells are visible. In this way you can use different types of classes. I'll change it to dark and I'll change it to light. Here you can see light gray color and dark gray color. So now let's move further. The last two classes are T-head dark and T-head light. This will give dark color to header as well as a light color to header respectively. So I'll use the T-head dark class. So I'll add it to header. Yeah, class is equal to. Now let's see what happens. Now you can see we have a darkened cell for header. For lighter one, you need to add light. Now you can see table head is lighter. So by using a simple class, you can easily change the color. So in this video, we saw how we can create a table in Bootstrap. With that, we also saw how we can use different classes to create a basic table, stripe table, a table with border, a table with hover, as well as darken and lighten tables. We can also remove all the borders using borderless class. With that, we can use the contextual classes also for coloring the tables. Like for primary, it will add a blue color. In the same way, it will add different colors according to the action. For success, danger, info, warning, etc. With that, you can also darken and lighten the cell using the dark and light table class. For headers, Bootstrap 4 is providing us with two classes, T-head dark for darken one header and T-head light for lighter header. In the last video, we saw how we can create a table in Bootstrap. We created a table, we added a border to it, we darkened the table, we added different contextual classes to a table cell so that we can color the table cells and add different actions to it. So in this video, we'll be learning about how to create a responsive table. To create a responsive table, you need to use the table responsive class. When you will add it, if the screen size is less than 992 px, it will add a scroll bar to it. So let's see what I just said. Here you can see I have added div class table responsive over the table class and I have closed it here. This is to add a responsive table. Now I'll run it. Now you can see the size is, when it will be 992 and above, the scroll bar will remove. Here you can see it has been removed on 992 because after 992 it will show the actual size. Before 992 for responsiveness it will add a scroll bar. So for different sizes, if you want it for less than 576 px, if you want the scroll bar to visible only when the screen size is less than 576, you need to use the table responsive SM class. In the same way for others, you need to use the MD, LG and XL class. For SM stands for small, MD stands for medium, LG for large, as well as XL for extra large. So let's see the working of SM. So I'll add it here. That's it. Now you can see when the size is 576 and less, it will show a scroll bar, and above than that it will show the normal screen. Now let's change it to MD. MD is for medium, which is 768. Now I'm adding MD. Now the size is 599. Now I'll take it to size 763. Now you can see a scroll bar is here. Now if we'll go above 768, it will show you the normal screen. It will show a scroll bar, but this is the normal screen for responsiveness. In the same way, you can set it for medium as well as large screen. So in this video, we saw how we can create a responsive table using the table responsive class. With that, we saw how we can add different classes, subclasses for table responsiveness for small, medium, large, as well as extra large scroll bar to be added to a screen. In this video, we'll be learning about how you can change background color in Bootstrap. So here we will see how you can change background color of a text using some classes provided by Bootstrap 4. Here you can see the first one is bg-primary class. BG stands for background, and primary class allow you to set important information. We can write key information. Success class is used to add a text for success action, like congrats, you have won the competition, or well done, you have been selected. The next one is you can set info using the bg info class. To set a warning message, you can use the bg warning class, which sets a background color for warning. It will set an orange color. Danger is to set danger message. It will set a red color. Secondary is used for adding less important info. Dark will add a dark background color. It will add a light background color, which is bg-light. So now we will see the usage one by one. So let's go with a sample example. So here you can see your sample example is visible. Firstly, we have the demo structure of a Bootstrap program. Then we have added the CDN files, and the below one is our demo text. Here you can see we have added a container. Div class is equal to container. With that, we have added demo content inside it. So let's say you need to change the background color of the text. This is example text, which you can see on the right. For that, we will add a class. Here you can see we have added bg primary. So I'll run it. On running, the background text is now blue because we have added primary. Through this, you can add important information, important content. Now let's move on. The second one we can add is warning. So here you can set a warning message. For an example, I am showing this is example text. Now I'll run it. Here you can see an orange text is visible to state the warning message. In the same way, let's add for all of them. Here I've added for danger, then I'll add for info, secondary, success, dark and light. So now we will run it.
On running, here you can see the background of the text is changed. For primary we have blue, for warning we have orange, for danger we have red. In the same way we have it for others. Success, here you can add success action. This is green in color, this is darkened, and this is your light color background. So now let's change the text also, because the text on the BG dark is not visible. This is not visible, so let's add text text white to it and run it. Now here you can see you can also use text class so that you can change the text color. The same we will discuss in the next video. So in this video we learned how we can change the background color in Bootstrap 4. You can change the background color of your text. You can set a color using the following classes. These are the classes through which you can add different background colors to your Bootstrap text. In the last video we learned about how we can change the background color of a text in Bootstrap 4. So now we will learn how we can change the text color itself. For that we'll be using the following classes. Here you can see text-muted class. In the last video we learned about BG classes, which were the background classes like BG primary, BG success and others. Here we will learn about the text classes to change the text color. So text muted will add a gray color to the text. Text primary will add a blue color, and you can set the key content here. Text success will add success action and will add the green color to the text. Info, you can set info. Warning, you can set warning message. In the same way a color will get added as orange. For danger you can set danger message. It will set a red color. Secondary will add secondary information. Less important, less key content we can add. White will add a white color. If the background is black, we may need a color like white. Text as white. Dark text, using text dark. This will add the normal body color, which is somewhat black. Text light will add a light color. So these are the classes available for adding text color in Bootstrap 4. So now let's work on our example. You can see this is a sample Bootstrap 4 structure. We have added CDN. Now we have added a basic text here. Div class is glue container, which provides a fixed width to the content according to the screen. Here's a text color and example text. Now let's add text muted class. Now run it. Here you can see a gray text is visible. In the same way I'll add let's say now we will add text primary, and we'll see the color to be changed as blue. Here you can see blue color is visible. In the same way I'll work around for others. So let's copy. So now here you can see I have added text muted class, which will give a gray color text. Text primary will give a blue color. Secondary will provide you an option to add less important text. Info, you can set info messages. Success will give you a green color text. Danger will give a red color text. Warning orange. White will give a white text. Text light will give a text with light color. Text dark will give a text with dark color. Now the last one is the basic one, text body. So let's add it. Now let's run it. Now here you can see all the text is visible, but two of these text is not visible because one is white and one is light. So to make it available, we will add BG color. Let's say the background I'll add is warning. Now let's see what happens. Now you can see our text is visible because we have changed the background. The last one is text body, which is showing the normal body text. In the same way we have added others. For success it is showing green color. For danger it will show red color. For warning it will show you orange color, as you can see here. For text white it is showing text white color. For light it will show light color. Darken is darkened, and body is the normal text. So in this way you can easily add text color in Bootstrap 4. So in this video we learned about how we can add a text color in Bootstrap 4. We worked upon all these classes to add text color. While adding light class as well as white class, we failed in recognizing the content because it was white in color and lighter. For that, we used the BG classes, which changed the background. We added the BG warning class, and that made our two text visible, text white as well as text light. In this video, we'll be learning about how we can create alert box in Bootstrap 4. To create a alert box, you need some classes. Here are the classes you need. The options work like we saw in the previous videos, like to set a success alert box action. For info alert box, you can use the alert info class. For warning, you can use the warning alert box. In the same way for others, you can easily use it. Let's say for warning alert box, you will be having orange color. For danger alert box, you will be having red color. For primary, you can set key info and it will have a blue color. Secondary will have secondary info, like less important info. Light will add a light colored alert as well as a dark colored alert for alert dark class. So firstly, we'll focus on the first part, classes. So let's learn with an example. Now here is an example, Bootstrap 4 alerts. The basic Bootstrap structure is visible. We have used CDN. Now let's move to the code. The demo code includes div class is equal to container, which will provide us a fixed width as well as a demo heading. So now let's add our first alert. So here you can see I've added the first alert with div and a class as alert as well as alert success class. This will show an alert box that would state the success action. So let's run it. Here you can see our alert is visible. In the same way, we can add it for others like info, secondary, darken, lighten, and others. Let's add it. So success, I'll add info then. Now I'll add primary, I'll add secondary, I'll add danger, warning, dark, and light. I guess I have completed all of them. Light. So now I'll run all of them. On running, you can see this is our code, and on the right, these are all alert boxes. The last one is lighter one, and the darkened one is above. With that, we have a warning with somewhat like orange color. Then we have other alert boxes. In the same way, you can add a new alert box. For every alert, you need to add a new div class. So now let's focus on the other part of the concept. Now we have completed the classes. So now we will learn how to add a close symbol to the right of the alert to close it. Some of the alerts will have closing symbol like this so that you can close it. Let's see how we can add it. So let's say we need to add it on the first one. So we will use the alert dismissible class. With that, we will use an attribute and add a closing icon instead of the X sign. For closing icon, we will be using and times. This is an HTML character for X that will look like a closing icon. So let's add it. So here I'll add button in the form of an icon. Button type is equal to button. To add a button, we are using it. Now I'll add a class which is close to show it as a close icon, and an attribute for alert. And here now I'll set the HTML character. After that, I'll close the button. So this is how we have added a close icon that will allow users to close the alert. Now let's run it. Now here you can see our sign is visible. Now I'll click on it to close it. Now you can see it is closed, and now only 7 alerts are visible initially 8 alerts were visible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we have closed the first one. In this way you can close your alert. Now while closing an alert, you may have seen on some website that some additional information is given and you can close that alert box. While closing, it should show a fading effect that you are closing it. For that you need to use two classes. To close an alert box and add a fading effect, you need to use the fade as well as show class. So let's add it. So I'll add it here and let's see what happens. I'll run it again and here you can see your alert is visible. Now I'll close it. On closing, you may have seen that it is showing somewhat like a transition, like it's fading. Here you can see now it's fading. So to add it, we use two classes, fade and show. Now let's move on to the another part. Now you can also add a link in the alert box. Let's say you need to add more info link to an alert box. You can easily add it. For adding an alert link, let's say we will add it on the second one. You need to use a tag. Let's add a tag and add a link like you always add, and add a class that is alert link bootstrap class, and that's it. Here you can add a text. So why we used alert link class? So that it looks the same. Like for example, the primary will have a blue colored alert like shown here. So to add a link to it, the color of the link should look the same, somewhat the same, so that it looks like the link is related to the alert box text. For that, let's say we are adding it here in the primary so that we can easily show the color difference. Now you can add any link here like https example.com, like more info link is like here your more or info. Okay, so here's the link and we have added it for more info. Now we will close it. Now I'll run it and let's see the difference. Here you can see we have added more info. I can add space here and run it again. Now you can see the more info link is visible and it is having almost the same color like the primary alert, which is blue. Now you will click on it and you will move to the example.com link. So in this video we learned about how we can create alerts in Bootstrap 4. We use the following classes to create alert. With that we learned how we can add a closing symbol in the form of a closing icon using the and times character. Then we learned how we can add a fading effect using the fade and show classes. Then we added a link to the alert box using the alert link class. Badges are mainly used to add important info to a text. Let's say you have added new content and you want to show a label to users that this topic is new or this product is new. You can easily show it. Or you can also add the count of posts. Like for Java you have 20 posts. On the right of Java you can show the count. So to explain the examples, we will first create a badge using the badge class. Here you can see a sample example is visible. This is the normal Bootstrap structure. We have used CDN for example. Now moving to the code, we have used div class to container because we wanted a fixed width for our content. Now we have a basic heading, demo heading, and another heading. So now I've added a badge using the span class, and under class I have shown the badge class. I can set it like this to make it easier to learn. Okay, that's fine now. The structure is good now. So I'll run it. So why I've added this? I've added this to give color to the badge. On the right you can see the blue color. I'll again run it. It will give the same result obviously. So here you can see new post at 12. In the same way you can create a badge. Okay, so I'll give another example. You may have seen it on many websites. Let's say I'm adding a new products. Like let's say I've added an online web testing tool and I want to show the users that it is a new one. So I'll show new here and run it. Now you can see online web testing tool, it's a new product. In the same way you can add different badges to your website. Now if you want to change the color of the badges, you can easily change it to, let's say I'll add secondary if the info is a secondary info, not a key info. Now the color will change again. Now I'll add like say it's a danger action, I'll add danger, it will give an orange color, a red color, sorry. For warning, it will give an orange color. For info, it will give another color. So in this way you can easily add it. Now the remaining ones are badge light and badge dark. As you can see, you can change the badge color using these classes which we saw right now. Now let's add the last one, light, and let's add dark here, and let's see the difference. Here you can see light and one is on the bottom and the dark one is on the top. So now we will see how we can change the shape of the badge to make it more round. For that, use pills class. Here you can see we need to use the badge pill class to change the shape of a badge. So we will use the badge pill class. Now I'll add badge pill here and let's see the difference. Let's change it to primary to make it easy to display. Now I'll run it. Now you can see the badge is more round. Now I'll add it here as well to spot the difference. Let's add primary here or info here and badge pill here. And I'll run it again. On running, you can see the badge is more round and we have changed the shape of it. So in this video, we learned how we can work upon Bootstrap for badges. Badges are used to add key info to a text. For example, you can add a new here if the product is new, and you can set it using the badge class. So we learned how we can create a new badge using the badge class, how we can change the badge color using the following classes. You can add blue color to it using primary. You can add red color to it using danger class, badge danger. And the last thing we saw was how to change the shape of a badge using the badge pill class. We will learn how to create a progress bar, how we can set the width and height of it. We can also change the height of the progress bar. With that, we can also add stripes to a progress bar and set a label. Like you may have seen a progress bar with a label like 30% loaded, 70% completed. Even let's say the water level is 10 meter written on a progress bar. So that is used to add labels. We can also use the contextual background classes to change the color of the progress bar. Let's say BG primary class to add blue color to the progress bar, and the same way other contextual classes which we have seen before. We will see them here again. If you want to animate a progress bar and make it look like an animation and make it look more attractive and catchy, you can easily add it using Bootstrap for progress bar classes. So let's see how we can work on it. Firstly, we will create a progress bar. Here you can see a sample example. This is the basic structure of a Bootstrap program. We have used CDN here for Bootstrap classes. Now we have a container element. In that I've added a demo heading. So now I'll add a div again with progress class and we'll close it. Now I'll add the progress bar class which comes inside the progress container. Now I'll close it and run it. Now you can see on the right a bar is visible, but this is not a progress bar. It is not showing any progress. For that you need to set the width using style. So now I'll add style. So here you can see I have added style. Now I'll run it. Now you can see a progress bar is actually visible. If you will set the width to be 90, the progress bar will be at the end, almost end, because it will be set to 90 level, 90%. As you can see the changes. If you want to change the height of the progress bar, you can set the height as well. The default height set for a progress bar is 16px, so I'll change it to 25 and let's see what happens. It is obviously more than 16 and the height will change. I'll run it. Now you can see the changes are not visible because we have not set the height for progress class as well. So we will add it. Now I'll run it. On running, now you can see our progress bar is having more height. So in this way you can change the height of the progress bar. Now we have completed the first three parts of the video. To create a progress bar, to change the width of the progress bar, and to change the height of a progress bar. Now we will see how to add stripes to progress bar as well as to set a label. So let's do it. To add stripes to a progress bar, you need to use the class progress bar striped. Now I'll run it. Now you can see stripes are visible on our progress bar by just adding progress bar striped class. So now maybe you need to add a label as well. To add a label, you need to add the label content here. That's it. Now I'll set it to 90 meters, let's say. Now I'll run it. Now you can see our label is visible. You can set it to anything like 90% also, and you need to add it. So a label is visible here. So now we will see how we can add contextual background classes to change the color of the progress bar. Right now the color is blue, so now we will change it. After that we will animate the progress bar to complete the video. So now to add color to the progress bar, we will use the contextual classes which you may have seen in my previous videos, like BG warning, BG danger, BG success, BG primary for a blue colored progress bar. So basically these are used to add like warning action to the progress bar using the BG warning class, danger action using the BG danger class, success for success action, primary for to set information in a progress bar. So let's use one of them for example. So let's say I'll set it to BG warning, and now let's see the difference. I'll run it. Here you can see the color have been changed. So I'll now create more, and let's remove the height, and I'll add, let's say, danger for red color using the contextual class BG hyphen danger. I'll run it. Now you can see two progress bars are visible. I'll add, let's say I'll add a text, water level. Now again, so here you can see our second progress bar is visible. So we have seen the role of BG danger, BG warning. In the same way you can add primary or secondary here to change the color of the progress bar according to the actions. Now it will again change the color. So now we will learn about the last concept of progress bars in Bootstrap 4, which is animated. So for animated you need to use a class progress bar animated. So I'll add the progress bar animated here. So let's say I'll add progress bar animated here. I'll remove other classes. Now I'll run it and see the difference. Here you can see the progress bar is animated. In the same way you can use the progress bar animated class to animate it. In this video we learned how we can work with progress bars in Bootstrap 4. We learned how we can create a progress bar using the progress class as well as progress bar class. We also learned how we can add width to a progress bar using style width. Then we learned how we can height using the height property. Then we added progress bar stripes using progress bar striped class. Then we added label to a progress bar. Then we use the contextual classes like BG warning, BG danger to add color to the progress bar. Then we animated the progress bar using progress bar animated class. We will learn how to create a navigation bar. Navigation bar can be understood by a navigation header that is on the top of the page. For example, we have a Navbar navigation bar sticked on the top. So we will see how we can easily create it. Starting with the basic navigation bar, we will use the Navbar class. So here you can see we have our Bootstrap Navbar example. So we have used CD and Bootstrap here, and here is the code. Firstly, we have used the nav element. With that, we added a navbar class to create a navigation bar. Under it, to add the items which we call menus for navigation, you need to use the UL class and set the navbar nav class. Under for every LI, you will have a new menu. So that we added a class, Bootstrap class, nav item, and for links we used the class navlink. So we added 4 links here using the navbar class. And right now here you can see on running, it is showing vertically. So here you can, so in this way you can create vertical navigation bar, but we want a horizontal one, which we have seen in the example. For that you need to use the responsive collapsing classes, which will allow the navbar to collapse if the screen is small. Basically this is used expand SM for small. So we will use it so that if the screen is small, and to make it easier for users to see the navigation part, it will collapse. The navigation bar will collapse. So now I'll add it here. Navbar expand SM. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see our navigation bar is visible. Let's add a lighter one, a light colored, using the BG light. If you want a darker one, use the contextual class BG dark. Here you can see. If you want a blue colored one, use BG primary, and you can see blue color is visible. The text is not visible because it is a link and it is also a blue color. Now let's use secondary one and see if it's fit. Now use danger. Let's see, danger one warning will give orange color, so that's fine. So now we have created our first navigation bar using the Navbar class, Navbar nav class, which is used under UL tag, and for every item we have used nav item class. Now we will see how we can center a navigation bar. So center it, use the justify contain center class. Let's use it. So to center it, right now it's not on center. To center it, you need to use the justify content center class. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see it is on the center. Now in our example, we saw that our navigation bar is on the right. So I'll add end here and it will be on the right side. So we have seen it here. It's on the right. We have aligned it correctly. Moving further, how you can change the background color of the navigation bar. Here we have seen before in the same video that to change the background, we use the contextual class BG warning, BG danger, like we use BG info also. Now after using BG info, here you can see the links are not visible. To add a white text color, you need to use the Bootstrap Navbar dark class. So I'll add it and let's see what happens. So here you can see our Navbar text color is dark. For black, you need to write Navbar light here and run it. Now here you can see black is visible. So let's change it and add danger here and keep Navbar light, which is black. Or I'll add warning here and I'll keep it black. Okay, so now moving further, now we have changed the background color as well as the text color. So we will write change the text color of the Navbar items. Now Navbar brand class, obviously you need to add a logo to your Navbar. For that you can use the Navbar brand class. Let's see how. Use the A element and under that you need to add the class Navbar brand. After adding, you need to set the link of your logo and that's it, and close it. Now I'll run it. As you can see, a logo is also aligned on the end. Now let's remove it and keep the default. Let's see what happens. As you can see, everything is on the left by default. Now moving further, we will learn how to work with Navbar text class. Let's say you need to add a text to your Navbar, a basic text, a normal plain text. For that, use the Navbar text class. Now when the UL tag closes, you need to add the span class. Adding span element will allow you to add a class that is Navbar text so that you can set the basic text. Now just close it and I'll add the text. Let's say it's a product website. We can write just launched. I'll run it. On running, here you can see the text we added is visible. Now we will see very important concept like fixed navigation bar using the fixed top and fixed bottom classes. Here you can see here, this is the example of fixed top. To add it, we will use the fixed top class. So let's add fixed top here because we want a fixed nav bar at the top. I'll run it. After running, it will be fixed. Now to add a scroller to it, let's set the style 2000 px. Now I'll run it. Here you can see scroll bar is visible. I'll scroll it. On scrolling, here you can see our navigation is bar is on the top. Let's add some content to it so that we are scrolling correctly. Now here you can see I have added a container and set the style so that the content comes below the menu. So we have added demo text here, and let's see, we will scroll it now. First we will run it. After running, now you can see, now we will scroll down and you can see our navigation bar is on the top. Now we will do the same for bottom navigation, bottom fixed navigation. Set it to bottom, fixed bottom, and run it. Now you can see our code is visible. Now I'll go to the bottom and you can see it is fixed to the bottom. In this way you can create fixed navigation menus, navigation bar. In this video we learned how we can work with a basic navigation bar. We created a basic navigation bar using Navbar class. We also learned how we can collapse the navigation bar if the screen is small using the expand SM class. We also centered a navigation bar. We have changed the background color as well as the text color of the nav bar. We use the Navbar brand class to add a logo. Use the Navbar text class to add plain text on the navbar itself. Also we have seen how to create a fixed navigation bar like we saw in almost every website these days using the fixed top as well as fixed bottom class. Fixed top will stick the navigation bar on the top and it will be on the top even if you will scroll down. In the same way, the fixed bottom class will allow you to add a bottom navigation bar. In this video we'll be learning about navigation menus in Bootstrap 4. To create navigation menus you need to use the nav class in Bootstrap, and you can easily create horizontal menu through it. To create a basic horizontal menu you need three classes: nav class, nav item class for each li element you will add, and nav link class so that you can add links to it. And the nav class is used to add a horizontal menu using the UL tag. So now let's see. Here you can see our basic code is visible. So we have used CD and Bootstrap, and we have set a container using div class is equal to container. Under that we have used UL tag and unordered list to create menus and set the class as nav. This will create the navigation menu. Under that, for every item we have used li tag and set the class as nav-item. Under that, to link it you can use the a tag, which we always use to link, to create a link in HTML as well. Under the class you need to add nav link and set the link here. We have set it hash just for an example, and you need to add the content here. In this way you can add more than one item. Now you can see I've added 4 nav items, and now I'll run it and our navigation menus are visible. So now let's move further how we can align nav menu. For that you need to use the justify content center as well as the justify content end class. The center class is used to center the nav as the name suggests, and the end class is used to set the nav to the right. For that, first we will center it. You just need to add the class here, justify content center. Now I'll run it. Now here you can see your navigation menu is in the center. Now for right aligning it you need to add end here and run it. Now it's in the end. So in this way you can easily align nav. So let's say you don't want a horizontal menu, you want a vertical navigation menu. For that you need to use the flex column class. So let's see it. Now I'm adding a new navigation. Now I'm adding subjects for our second nav menu. Now I'll run it. Now we have 2 navigation menus. Now I'll create the vertical nav for the second one. Here you need to just add flex column class. That's it. On running, here you can see we have a vertical menu. In this way you can create a vertical menu using flex column class. Now with Bootstrap you can also create a navigation tab out of your nav. For that you need to use the nav tabs, and you can also create pills, navigation pills, using the nav pills class. Now let's see the difference between tabs and pills using both the classes. Here first we will create the tab. Here add nav tabs class, and here you need to add nav pills class. Now let's run it. Now here you can see a border is visible. So we will set active class also so that we can see the difference. Now I'll set active here and active in the pill as well. Now let's see the difference. Here you can see a tab is visible and here pills are visible. So through using both the classes nav pills and nav tab, you can create a tab as well as a pill. Now we will see how we can justify navigation tabs as well as pills. For that you need to just use the nav justified class. The justified navigation tab or pill will add equal width to each and every item. Let's see how. Here you need to just add nav justified, and on the pill you just need to add nav justified class and run it. Now here you can see they have equal width. If I'll drag it, here you can see they now have equal width according to the screen size. Now moving further, how you can add drop down to tabs and pills. First we will see how to add drop down to tabs. So here we have added drop down under the Chinese language. For that what we did, we added drop down here, drop down class under the section under the item where we wanted the drop down. With that, under the nav link we added drop down toggle so that we can easily toggle. Example, let's like here. With that we use the data toggle attribute and set the value as drop down. So now we wanted a drop down inside the Chinese language tab. For that we added a div here which closes here. Div class is drop down menu, and within that we added 4 new items. We can see sub items or sub menus here which are drop down. Each one of them is having drop down item class. Here we have added 4 and we have closed the div here. After that our li closes here. Now I'll run it. Now let's see the difference. Now we are having drop down here which we can toggle easily. Now we need to do the same for our pills, which are these. Now let's say we need to add it under signs. For that you need to repeat the steps which we did above. Now let's say we want it for signs. So here which we'll be doing is adding drop down here. After that under nav link you need to set the drop down toggle class. Now set the data toggle attribute to drop down. Now we will add a div tag with the drop down menu class under it after the a tag. This a tag is for our menu signs. Now we need to add sub menus in it. So we need to declare a new class. We added it. Now I'll add signs 1, signs 2 here under the sub menus or sub items, whatever you can say, for the drop down item class. Now I'll run it. Now our sub item sub menus drop down is visible. What we did, we added the drop down class here, drop down toggle class here. We added a data toggle attribute with the drop down value. With that we added a drop down menu div class and added the items here. That's it. In this way you can create drop down pills as well. Now we'll see how to create a toggleable tabs as well as pills. For that you need to use the data toggle attribute again and add the value tab and pill respectively. Let's see. Now this was our example. Here we need to add toggleable tabs as well as pill. For that use the data toggle is equal to tab attribute and add it to your items. Data toggle is equal to tab. Now add it here as well in the third and in the fourth one. After adding it we need to add the tab pane. For that we will add it here. Now here you can see for tabs we have added a class tab content, and within that we have created a tab panes. Right now we have 4 tabs, so we will create 4 tab panes. We will link it according to the div ID using the hash. Now let's say I added 1 here, 2 here and 3 here. Now I'll set ID 1 here. This is simple CSS. 2 here and 3 here. This will allow us to create tab panes. Now whenever you usually click on English, the following content and heading would be visible. French, the French one would be visible, that is with ID2. And here we have added a tab pane class as well with the container class for a purpose. Now I'll run it. On running it, here you can see when I'll click on French, we did a flaw here. Sorry, we forgot one. Here I'll set 2, here I'll set 3, and here I'll set 4. Now doing the changes again. The first one is English, second one is French, third one is Chinese, and fourth one is Russian. So now I'll add 4 here. So it's good we did a mistake. Now we know what to do. Chinese, Russian, and that's it. We have set the 4 tab pin. Now I'll run it. For English, here you can see a content is visible. For French, a French content, Chinese and Russian. In this way you can easily create tabs and tab panes. Now in the same way we can create it for our pills. Let's add it for pills. So here the difference is only the data toggle tab, it will change to pills. Add it here, data toggle. Is equal to pills. That's it. Now I'll add again. Now let's add something different. Maths, SCI, Eco. This is how we used to pronounce it. History. So now Maths, Science, Eco, History. Set it here. Maths, Science, Eco, History. Set Maths, Science, Economics and History. Now it should create a tab pin for pills. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see when you will click maths, the maths content will be visible. Now on clicking science, it is not visible because we did a blunder above. It should be pills, not pills. Now I'll run it again. On running, now maths is visible, science is visible for science, economics for economics, and history for history. So what different thing we did? We just changed the data toggle to pill instead of tab for tabs. So in this way you can easily create toggleable and dynamic pills, whatever you can say that. With that you can also create toggleable and dynamic tabs using the data toggle attribute. So in this video we learned how to work with navigation menus in Bootstrap. We created a horizontal menu, we also created a vertical menu. We have set the alignment of the nav also. We have also created navigation tabs as well as pills. We also learned how to justify both of them, and we added a drop down as well to the tabs and pills. Drop down can be considered as a sub menu or sub items. We also learned how to create toggleable and dynamic tabs. We can write dynamic here. We also learned how to create toggleable and dynamic pills using data toggle is equal to pill attribute. In this video we'll be learning about pagination in Bootstrap 4. Pagination in Bootstrap 4, basically you may have seen on a website, they provide link for next and previous pages, as well as if it is a series of posts, let's say interview questions, then you can see the link as previous 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the end would be for next page. In this video we learn about pagination. Here you can see a simple example of pagination on a website. Previous link is visible. In the same way we can add links for other pages as well, including next. Another example is visible here. Here you can see on the right, this is a pagination example. You can link the 5 pages here as well as the previous and next page. So let's see how we added the page link class with the pagination class. Pagination class is added to the UL tag, which is our unordered list, and with that for every list item we have added the page link class and linked it using the A tag. In the same way you can also add pagination. For basic pagination, I'll repeat what we did. We added the pagination class to a UI element. After that we added page item class to the each and every LI item, and for the link, for the page link, we have set the page link class to the A tag, and all this comes inside the LI class for each and every item. I'll just format it to make it easy to read, understand. You can see we added A class under LI class page item, and we have added page link class under the A tag. Now let's say you are active on a link on a page 3. So how you can show it to users that the page is active and highlighted. Let's say if you have reached the third page of interview and the third page should be highlighted so that it's easier for users to navigate to the next and previous page, and so that they are not confused. For that, use the active class. This will highlight the link. Now let's say I talked about third page. I'll set active on the page item for third page. Now I'll run it. On running here, you can see the third page is highlighted. That means we are on the third page. Now let's say you need to disable a link. Let's say you need to disable the previous link. For that, use a disable class. Now we will see how to disable a link. Let's say we need to disable the previous class. For that, set disabled for the li item. Now you can see after running, you can't click on the previous pagination because we have disabled it using the disabled class under the li class with the page item class. Now we will see how we can resize pagination. Resizing pagination will allow you to add a smaller pagination than the default as well as a larger pagination. For that we will use pagination LG for large and pagination SM for smaller pagination. Now let's add a larger one. Pagination LG. Now you can see our pagination is quite large now. Now let's copy it and paste it and see the difference for small as well as the default one. Now I'll run it. On running here, you can see the first one is the default one without using any extra class. The second one is the larger one because we use the pagination LG class here. And the next one is a smaller one wherein we use the pagination SM class. Now we will see how we can align pagination on the page. This is important because on many pages you can see on the center as well. For alignment, on the start you need to use a justify content start. For centering, you can use the justify content center class, and at the end on the left you can use the justify content end class. So now we will see how to work with it. Now we have three pagination. Let's remove the larger one to make the things clear as well as the smaller one. I'll keep the default now. I'll run it again. Now we can see. Now to justify it in the center, you need to use the justify content center class under UL tag. Now I'll run it. Now you can see our pagination is aligned in the center. On the right, you need to use the end. Now I'll run it. Here you can see it is visible on the right. To make it visible in the starting, you need to use the left. Justify content left class. Now run it. On running, here you can see it is visible on the left. In this video, we learned how to work with pagination in Bootstrap 4. We created a pagination. We highlighted it using the active class. Let's say you are on the current page or the page is 2 and you want to highlight the second page pagination. For that, use the active class. To disable any pagination, you need to use a disable class. After that, to resize pagination, you need to use the pagination LG as well as the pagination SM class for smaller pagination. And at the end, if you want to align pagination, you need to use the justify content start class. To center it, use the justify content center class. And if you want it on the right side, you need to use the justify content end class. In this video, we'll be learning about how to work with images in Bootstrap 4. Using some classes in Bootstrap 4, we can create a circular image, we can add rounded corners to an image, we can also create a thumbnail image. With that, we can also center an image and align images according to the text on a website, and we can also create responsive images. So let's first see how to create a circular image using rounded circle class. Here you can see a code is visible. We have used CDN for Bootstrap. Now our container class is visible, which sets a container for fixed width. Now let's add an image using the HTML image class. Here we will add the source, and with that you need to add the class rounded circle. You can also add alt text like install WordPress because our image is related to WordPress installation. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see on the right, we haven't set the height and width, so it is visible like this. Let's add height and width also. Now let's run it. On running, here you can see now we have shaped the image to a circle. Now if I'll remove the class, this is our original image. Now I've added the class again. Now we have a rounded image using the rounded circle class. Now the next one is rounded class. This will help you in adding rounded corners to an image. Now let's just change it. I've changed it to rounded because I want rounded corners for my image. Now here you can see the rounded corners are visible for my image. Now we will see how we can create a thumbnail of an image using the image thumbnail class. Now I'll change rounded to image thumbnail and let's see what happens. I'll click run now. Here you can see a thumbnail image is visible. So how we found out that it is a thumbnail image? Because borders are visible. So this is now a thumbnail image. Now we will see how we can center an image in Bootstrap 4. For that you need to use the utility classes MX Auto. That means margin auto, which you may have used before. And we also need to use dblock class, which means display block. This is also we have used in CSS many times. Now I'll just add them here to center the image. Now I'll run it. Now here you can see this is our page and the image is in the center. So using both the classes, utility classes, we have centered our image. Now we will move further and align images. To align image on the right, use the float right class, and for left alignment, use the float left class. Now I'll run it. It will be aligned on the left. Now here you can see the alignment is on the left. Now let's add it to the right. We'll copy the same image and set class to float right. On running, here you can see now our images are on the left as well as the right because we used float left and float right classes. Now we will see how we can create a responsive image. For that, use the image fluid class. Now let's remove this and add image fluid class. Now let's run it. On running, our image is visible. Now we will resize the browser, the tab, and let's see here you can see it is a responsive image now. It has aligned the image on its own and scaled it nicely. In this video, we learned how we can work with images in Bootstrap 4. We created a circular image. We created an image with rounded corners. With that, we created an image thumbnail using the image thumbnail class. We also centered an image using margin auto and display block class, which is called MX auto, as well as dblock class in Bootstrap. We have also aligned the image on the left using float left and on the right using float right class. To create a responsive image, you need to just set the image to be image fluid. It will scale it on its own to make it a responsive image. In this tutorial, we'll be learning about tooltips. Now, what is a tooltip? Tooltip in Bootstrap is a popover that appears when you hover mouse cursor. To create a tooltip in Bootstrap, you need to use the data toggle attribute. For creating a tooltip, you need to use jQuery to initialize the tooltip. So we will say later, and then we will call the tooltip method to create a tooltip. With that, we will also see how you can easily position a tooltip on the top, bottom, left, or right of any element. So let's first see how to create a tooltip. Here you can see this is a sample code. So we have used CDN here and the current version of Bootstrap. Going down, we have div class is equal to container because we wanted a fixed width. Now under div class is equal to container, first we will add code for tooltip. Firstly, let's add a demo content. Let's add demo or whatever you want. Now moving further, now I'll use an A tag. Let's say I'll add hash here. With that, I'll use the data toggle attribute which I discussed before, and I'll set it to tooltip. Now you can also set the title of the tooltip. Let's say I'll set it to first tooltip, for example. Now I'll close it and add any text, and I'll close it. Now moving further, as I discussed before, that we need to use jQuery. I'll add script tags and use jQuery to initialize the tooltip. For that, we will use the document.ready function. Now I'll add the data toggle attribute. Now use the tooltip method, and that's it. Now this line will select the element because the tooltip attribute is in the A element. After that, it will call the tooltip so that the tooltip is visible to you. Now we will run it. On running, here you can see a demo heading is visible. With that, the text is visible. Now hovering, here you can see a tooltip is visible on the top by default. First tooltip, and the text is also visible. So now through this you can easily create a tooltip. Now we will see how we can position the tooltip on the top, bottom, left or right of the element. Now we will see how we can position tooltip on the top, bottom, left or right of an element. For that you need to use the data placement attribute. And let's see how we can do it. Now you need to keep the same code. Now let's say if you want the tooltip at the bottom, you need to add the data placement attribute with the value bottom. Now we will run it. On running, now we will hover on it. Now you can see it is visible in the bottom. Now in the same way we will set it for left, right and top. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see a text is visible. The first one is bottom, the next one is top, the next one is left and the next one is right. In the same way you can easily position tooltip using the data placement is equal to value attribute. Value would be bottom, top, left, right for bottom position, top position, left position and right position respectively. So in this video we learned what is a tooltip in Bootstrap, how we can create a tooltip, how we can use a data toggle attribute as well as the tooltip method with jQuery so that we can easily create a tooltip. With that we learned how we can easily position tooltip using the data placement attribute. Cards in Bootstrap is a box which has borders and which will be having padding around it so that it looks amazing. It looks with a great design. So cards basically have a lot of uses. Came in Bootstrap 4 to replace your panels, wells and thumbnails so that you can easily create a simple box. If you want to add images in it, you can easily add it to make it look like a thumbnail. So firstly, to create a card, you need a card class as well as a card body class. Let's see how to create a basic card in Bootstrap and how does it look. To create a basic card in Bootstrap, this is an example. Here you can see the default is visible. We have used CDN here for Bootstrap. With that, here we are having div class is equal to container. We will add the code in the container which is of fixed width. Now let's add the code. Firstly, let's add a demo heading and a basic text before starting with the card. Let's say I'll add details here. Now moving further, I'll create div class is equal to card, which is our card class, and let's close it. Now I'll just format it to make it look easier to read. Now under card class, we will be using a div class card body, which is the body of the card where you can add content. So this will be the basic structure of a card. So here a card body is visible. So now I can add here, let's say the match will start at 9 p.m. for showing an example. Now I'll run it. Now here you can see on the right our card is visible. In the same way you can add different cards. You can add heading to a card. You can also add a footer to a card. You can set the title, change the color, add an image to a card. Now we will see all of them. Next we will be looking at card header and card footer. As the name states, to add header to a card you need to use the card header class. For footer you need to use the footer class. Now taking the same code further, I'll add div class is equal to card header for the heading. And I'll remove this because we have our header also. I'll add details here. Now moving further, we will add div class is equal to card footer. Now under footer you can add do not bring camera for example. Now let's run it. Now here you can see our header footer is visible. Under the header we have written details and under the footer we have written do not bring camera. It is well designed and a great amount of padding between it, so you don't need to add separate padding. And this way you can add a card header, body as well as footer. Now we will see how to add color to a card. For that we need to use the contextual classes which we have seen before. This is for adding blue color, this is for adding success action, info action, warning action, which will be in orange color, danger would be in red color. This is for secondary info, less important info. Dark is for darker card, light is for lighter card. Now let's see how to add it. Now here you can see this was a basic card. So now we will add cards with different contextual classes. For an example, we will show different cards. First let's add BG primary for blue color, then now run it. Here you can see blue color card is visible. In the same way I'll add it for others. Let's add all of them. Primary was the first one. Now we will add let's say secondary. Then I'll add info. Now danger, warning, success, dark and light. Now I'll run them all. You can see different colors are visible. Lighter one, darker one, success with green color, warning with orange color, danger with red color, BG info, here it is, BG secondary, BG primary with blue color. In the same way you can add background colors to your card. Now we have seen how to create a card, how to add header, footer and how to color it. Now we will see card title, how to add a title to a card using the card title class. Now I'll remove all of them. I'll keep the basic one for our example. Now to add a title, we will use any element. Let's say I'll go for H3 and I'll add this is title. With that I need to add a class. Card title. Now I'll run it. You can see the title is visible. Now to add content, we will use a p tag and a class card text. Now I'll add this is demo text. Now I'll run it. Now you can see the title is visible and the text is also visible. And this way you can also add it. Now we will see how we can add an image to a card background just like a thumbnail. Before that we will also see what is a card link class and how we can use it. The card link class will allow you to add a link in the card and will give a blue color to it so that users can easily understand that it is a link. Now to add a link, we always know that we need to use the a tag with the href attribute. Let's say your example is example.com new. Now close it, use the card link class. Now add a text to the link, my link. Now we will run it. Now you can see my link is visible because we use the card link class. It is having a blue color. Now we will see how we can add image to a card background, add a top, bottom or basic image to a card background. For that we need to use the card image class. So let's start with it. Now first we will see how we can easily turn an image into a card background. That is the card image overlay class. For that, firstly let's remove the previous code. Now this is our demo card code. Firstly we will use the image element. Under that we will set the class to card img top. Then you need to add the source of the image. We will add it later and close it. With that, under that we need to add div class and use the card image overlay class. Here we have set the card image overlay and a card text inside it. The text visible over the background image. Now you can add a text also. Here you can also set a button. Obviously on a profile visibility you also see a button so that you can know more about the profile or more about more details. So here I'll add it, class is equal to btn, let's add secondary. With that you can add author profile and just close it. Now just close this div tag which is for card image overlay. Code is finished. Let's add the link of the source of the image. Now let's say this is our link. Now I'll run it and let's see what happens. On running it, here you can see, firstly I should correct the spelling. On running here you can see we have turned an image into a card background and added the text on the top of the image. That's why we use the card image top class. So in this way you can easily add it on your website. On clicking the author profile you can add a link here so that user can go to the complete author profile of Amit. So now we will move on and see the card image top class so that we can place the image at the top inside the card. We have already used the same class. Now we will add card body here because we don't want the background to be an image. So now we have changed it to card body. Let's keep the same. Now we have removed the image from the background. Now let's run it. On running, here you can see the image is on the top and a card is visible, as you can see here. Same card is visible but the text is in the bottom and the image is on the top because we have used the card image top class. Now we will see how we can use the card image bottom class to add an image in the bottom and text at the top. That is the opposite of what we can see here. Now for bottom, just change it to bottom and take it outside the div below, not on the top, because we want the image in the bottom and text on the top. So now let's run it. Now you can see the image is in the bottom and the text is on the top. In this way we learned how to work with card image overlay. To add an image to a card background, we added the image to the background of the card. With that we also set the image at the top and the bottom. Now let's work around grid of cards, which is using the card columns class. Let's remove it. Through this you can easily create a grid of cards. For that you need to add the class div class is equal to card columns. Within that you can add your card. Now let's first complete the first card again. Under the card we will add the card body. And let's add some card text under the p tag. Now I'll add demo1 here, and here to show the difference, let's say I added info. Now I'll add different cards, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we have 4 cards. I'll add primary here. Let's say I'll add secondary here, primary here, dark one here. Now I'll change it to show the difference, 3, 4. Now I'll run it. Here you can see above 576 and above it will show you cards. Now our cards are visible. Now let's add 2 more cards. Now here you can see our 6 cards are visible. I'll change it to light. I'll change it to danger to show the difference. Now you can see all our 6 cards are visible in a column of cards. Now we will learn about deck of cards, how we can create a deck of cards, that is cards with equal height and width using the card deck class. So this is a code for card columns. Now change it to deck, and now I'll remove 2 of them so that it's easier for us to see the equal height and width of the card. Now I'll add more text to the cards to see the difference between the height. it would be the same even if the text in one of the card is more. Now let's run it. Here you can see the equal size of the cards is visible because we use the card deck class. Now the last part, how we can group cards. We can group cards using the card group class. The card group class will remove the left and right margin between each and every card. This is the difference between a card deck and a card group class, that the card group class will remove the left and right margins between each and every card, which we saw before. Now let's go to the code and add group here and run it. You can see the margins have been removed. Now let's see the difference. I've copied the complete code. Now I'll add deck here and run it. Let's add demo here and now run it again. Now you can see the above one is card group and then below one is card deck. Card deck is having left and right margins between them. So in this video we learned how we can work with Bootstrap for cards. We also learned how we can create a card. We can also add a header and footer to a card. We can also color a card using the contextual classes. These are the classes. We can also set a title to a card. We can also link a card, add image to a card background, which we added it. We can also set the image at the top and at the bottom to make it look like a thumbnail. We can also grid card. We can also create a deck of cards as well as group cards in Bootstrap. In this video we'll be learning about Bootstrap for collapse class. If you want to create a collapsible content which hides and show on button click, you can easily do it using the collapse class. If you are having more details in your web page, you can create a button more details and collapse content in it. Using the collapse class you can hide and show it whenever you want. Now let's see how to create a collapsible content. For that we will use collapse class as well as an attribute which is data-toggle. So let's start with it. Now here you can see the Bootstrap structure is visible. We have used CDN. We have set the container using div class is equal to container, which will be having fixed to it. Within that, now we will create a collapsible content. We will create a button so that we can collapse the content within it. Now we will set the button class. Let's add it to danger, for example. Now we will set the data toggle attribute to collapse because we are using the collapse class. Now also use the data target attribute because we will be using an ID under div. The same content will be visible on button click. That is, the same content will be collapsed. Now I'll set it to more details and close it. Now I'll set content for the div. That is, this content will be collapsed. Now set it to same class. Now set the class to collapse. This element will collapse. Now set demo text or more details like tickets will be sold from 9 AM to 5 PM. Now we have completed with the collapse class. Now we will run it. On running here you can see a button is visible, same button. Now under target we have the test class, test ID. Here it is a test ID. Now on clicking, the below content will be visible. Here you can see the below content is visible. You can toggle it, you can show it, you can hide it. So this is how we created a collapsible content using collapse class. So now we will see if you want to display the content always, you need to use the show class. So now we will see how we can do it. It's simple. Here you need to add show. That's it. It will always show and you can hide it on click. Now you can see it is visible. On clicking it will hide, but the default will be visible on running it. The last part is how we can create an accordion. I hope you know what is an accordion. To create an accordion we will use the card class as well as the data parent attribute. Now let's add div id is equal to accordion to create an accordion. Now add card class inside it and let's close it. Within that now you can set different cards. Let's say within that now we'll set a card. Now I've set the header. Here we will use a tag to create a link using the card link class, so that on click on it the collapse content is visible, and the data toggle attribute will be set to collapse because we will collapse it. Let's say demo collapse, and we will use an ID attribute, so hash is used just like CSS. And I'll close it. Now set 1 here, and I'll close it now. Now I'll close the div as well. Now we will create a new div and set the ID which we have used above, demo collapse. Class we will set is collapse, which we did before, and we also want to show it always, so we will set it like this. Now we will use the data parent attribute for our accordion, and we will set it like this, accordion. Now add anything in it, demo, and I'll close the div. This content will be visible when you will click on the accordion, but by default we have shown it using the show class. So now let's run it. On running, here you can see our accordion is visible. On clicking it will toggle. If you want to hide it, just remove it and show it here. Now you can see our accordion is visible. In this lesson we learned how we can create a collapsed content using Bootstrap 4 collapse class. With that we use the data toggle attribute also to collapse the content, so that on button click it is visible, or you can toggle it anytime. To by default show it always, you need to use the show class, and to create an accordion you need to use the data parent attribute, which we saw here. We created an accordion. In this video we'll be learning about how to create a drop down menu in Bootstrap 4. A drop down menu is basically a toggleable menu through which you can allow the visitors to select any one option from the list. So you may have seen a drop down menu on many websites. So let's see how we can create it using Bootstrap 4. So here you can see a default structure is visible for Bootstrap. We have used CDN here. With that we have used div class is equal to container for a fixed width. After setting the container, now we will start with creating a drop down menu. I'll use the div class is equal to dropdown. Dropdown class is used. Now I'll close it. Now within that I'll create a button, because a menu has a button. Let's say you need to create a toggleable menu as a button. On click of the button all the list is visible. All the items of a list is visible. That would be your sub menus. For that we will create a button. Now I'll set drop down toggle class here, and an attribute data toggle which would be set as drop down. Now we will close the button. Within that you can set, let's say, Java here. Now we will create a drop down menu using the drop down menu class. Within that, now one by one we will add the drop down menu item. Obviously you know that a drop down menu item, a sub menu, has a link so that user can click on it and move to that section. So we will add link here. Let's add hash right now. Here I'll set core Java. Now I'll run it. Here you can see our drop down is visible because we have set the class as drop down. With that we have added a button. The color is this because we have added btn info class. Drop down toggle is visible. Now here you can see on clicking run our submenus are visible, which we can also say as drop down menu, because we have set the drop down menus with two links using a tag. So core Java and advanced Java is visible. In this way you can easily create a drop down menu. Here we have used a data toggle attribute for drop down, whereas drop down hyphen toggle class also, and to create submenus we use the drop down hyphen menu class. Now we will see how we can separate links in a drop down menu. For that, use the drop down divider class. Now let's say you need to add a divider below here. For that you need to use div and drop down divider class, and you need to close it. This will add a line. Now you can set it again. Here now set what you want to add after the divider. Other Java concepts. I'll run it. On working on it, here you can see our divider is visible. Now we will see how we can add a header in drop-down menu. For that, use the drop-down header class. For that, add a class. Let's say I'll add h4 element, and within that the class would be drop-down header, because we need to add the drop-down header for a drop-down. Now let's add core Java here, and within that the concepts I'll add as Java interfaces, Java packages. Let's remove this and add another heading. Now we have two headings. Let's add multi-threading. Now let's add advanced Java as a heading. Within that, let's add servlets, JSP, and Java Beans. Now let's run it. On running, now here you can see we have added heading in a drop-down menu. Like core Java will have all these things, and advanced Java as a heading will have all these topics. Now we will see how we can use active class and disabled class to enable or disable a menu item. Now let's say we need to set active for interfaces. We will set active here, and if we want to disable servlet, I'll add disabled here, and let's see the difference. Firstly, the difference is the same. Now after running it, here you can see Java interface is selected and it is shown as active class, and servlet looks like disabled. The color is changed because it looks like disabled and with a light gray text color. Now we will see how we can add a drop right menu. Using drop right menu, you can show the drop down menu items on the right side. For that, use the drop right class and now run it, and you can see the icon is changed and it is visible on the right. In the same way, now we will see drop left class. On running it, you can see it is visible on the right only, because we need to add something to move the element on the right. So let's add float right class. Now the drop down will be visible on the left. Here you can see, because we use the drop left class. Now let's move on. If you need to align the drop down menu to the right, you need to use the drop down menu right class. Here you can see. For that, let's use it. Firstly, I'll remove this because I want a stable drop down which is visible here. Now for the right drop down menu, to right align it, here I'll set drop down menu right class. That's it. Now I'll run it. Here you can see the difference is not visible. So let's add more text to the button to see the difference. Java concepts for interviews. Now the button text is this. Now I'll click on it, and you can see on the right the drop down menu is visible. Java basic concepts for interviews and entrance exams. Now I'll run it, and you can see on the right your menu is visible. We have right aligned it using the drop down menu right class. In this video we saw how we can work with drop down in Bootstrap 4, how we can create a drop down menu. We can separate links in drop down menu using this drop down divider class. We also added header like core Java, advanced Java to a drop down menu. We also set an active class which gets pre-selected, and we also disabled a submenu. With that, we also change the position of the menu. With that, we also set the drop left menu so that the icon is shifted to the left and the menu is visible on the left side of the button. We also saw how we can align drop down menu to the right. Let's say you have more than 5 to 6 words in your button text and you want to show the menu on the right for more visibility. You can align it on the right side of the drop down menu. In this video, we'll be learning about forms in Bootstrap 4. There are two types of layouts of a form in Bootstrap. The first one is full width and the second one is inline form. The full width form basically provides a form that is tagged and is having a full width with proper margins. In an inline form, we'll be using form inline class, and inline form is basically used where all the elements are inline as well as left aligned. In that we need to use the form inline class. Let's first see how an HTML form looks like, because then after that we will see how Bootstrap formats a form. Here you can see this is a demo form. We have used form element here with action, and we have used two text input type to add the name, the first name and last name of a user. With that, here is the submit button. After running it on the right, here you can see a demo HTML form is visible. Now we will see how to work with a Bootstrap form. Firstly, we will create a full width form. Now you can see a Bootstrap form is visible. This is the structure of Bootstrap program. We have used CDN here. Starting with the code, we have used container to set a container, class container. This will provide fixed width to the container. Now we have our form element. Herein we have set the action attribute. With that we have added form group class to create a stacked form, which is a full width form. Within that we have used a label to set the username as well as the input type email, so that user can enter the email ID. We have also added a form control class for this. Then going further, we have added the password using the same form group class. We have used the form group class here so that we can easily add a wrapper element using the same class that would add the wrapper element around each and every form control, so that it will give proper margins better than we have seen on the right side. And here we have added a button. We have added the button class and the button info. For color you can add primary, secondary, danger warning, whatever we discussed in the previous videos. Here for password we have set the label as password, whereas the input type we have set as password because we want the users to enter the password here. However, we have also set the class as form control, which is a Bootstrap class. Now we will run it. On running, here you can see our form is visible, which is having proper margins as well as it is having full width. Now we will see how to create an inline form using form inline class. What an inline form does, it will align all the elements on the left and will make it inline. So for that we will be using form inline class. Now we will remove the wrapper element again. Now under form action you can add a class here, that is our form inline class. Now we will run it. So this is our inline form. If you want to stack the elements horizontally, you need to reduce the size to 576px. Now I'll show you. Size is now 613. Now it's 583. Now it's 574, less than 576. Now your form looks like stacked horizontally. In this video we learned how to work with forms in Bootstrap. We worked around to create a full width form using form group class, whereas we have also set an inline form which aligns all the elements on the left and in inline using the form inline class. In this video we'll be learning about how we can work with form inputs in Bootstrap 4. We will learn about the form controls in Bootstrap 4. With Bootstrap you can add input text to a form, password, checkbox, radio button, even a text area. Like if you want address of a user, you can add text area, it has columns. Select, if you want to provide select list for users. You can also resize form with Bootstrap classes. You can also set range input using the input range type, as well as a file input using input file. File input is like you may have seen choose file option on job websites, like you need to choose a file and add your resume. So we will learn how to do it. Let's first see how to work with input type text. Here you can see our sample program is visible. We have used CDN Bootstrap here. With that we have set a container using div class is equal to container. This is a demo heading. Form action, action is our attribute, form is our element. To set proper margins for an element we have used div class is equal to form group class. It will wrap the element properly. Under that we have used input type text so that we can set it for first name of a student. Class is form control, which is the Bootstrap class. Here we have also used a label for first name. In the same way we have worked it for last name and set input type is equal to text here with the class as form control, which is the Bootstrap class. Here we have set the ID as name and the name attribute as last name. Here we have set a button using the BTN class in Bootstrap, as well as we have set the type of button using BTN secondary class. You can use BTN primary, info, danger, warning, whatever you want. Now we'll run it. On running here, you can see on the right, we can add first name here and last name here. It will allow us to add text in it. Now we will see how to add input type password. So I'll copy it. Here's form group. You can add PWD for password here. ID keep the same. Here you can set password. Here I'll set password, and for password in Bootstrap 4 you need to just type password here. That's it. Keep everything as it is. Class is equal to form control. Now I'll run it. Here you can see it is properly aligned because we have wrapped it under form group class. Now I'll try to add password. Here you can see the characters are not visible because we're typing password here. Now I'll move further and add checkbox, radio button, text area and select list. First let's go for checkbox. Now let's add checkbox below. For checkbox you need to set the div class first. Add it to form check. Now add a label. Firstly I'll close it. Now we'll set a label, and inside that we will set our input type checkbox. Label class is equal to form check label, and we can set for attribute as ch1. This will be our first option. Now I'll close the label. Now I'll set input type is equal to checkbox, class is equal to form check input. Now let's set ID for checkbox. Let's say I'll add ch1 here. Name you can set as, let's say, opt1. Value you can add any value, like let's say I'm adding mail here, and I'll close it. With that I'll set the option name like mail, no, not mail, values like BCA. I'll set BCA here. I've closed it. This is the first option. Now for second option you need to use the form check class again so that it is aligned properly. I'll set form check, it will be ch2 opt2. Now I'll set, let's say someone did MC also. In the same way we have set it for the second option. Now I'll run it and let's see what happens. On running it, here you can see our checkbox is visible. We can select more than one at a time because it is a checkbox, not a radio button. If you want to by default check it, by default check an option. For that you need to use the attribute checked. On running, here you can see it is by default checked. Let's say if I want to disable it, I'll set it disabled here, and let's see what happens. Now here you can see you won't be able to select the checkbox. In this way you can create a checkbox as well as add options to it. Now we will see how to work with radio button. For radio button you need to keep the classes same, form check, and the label you need to add the same form check label, but input type it should be radio because we are using radio button. Keep the classes same, and you can add the name value also. Value I'll add it male here, and for second one I'll add female here. A radio button you can select only one option at a time. Let's add RD1 here, RD2 here, RD2 here, and RD1 here. In the previous checkbox I guess I forgot to add CH2 here, so please change it CH1 CH2. And we have done rest of the changes. Here is the radio, and I guess I have done all the changes. I should remove the disabled part also. Let's keep it opt1 and opt1 here. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see now you can select only a single option, male or female. In this way you can add a radio button. Now we will move further and learn how to add a select list. Here through this you can allow the visitor to select any option from more than one option available. For that, now I need to add a div. Here you need to set the class as form group. Under that add a label. For you can set an option work. and close it. Select your priority. Now I'll close the label. After that I'll add options here. Before that I'll need to add the select class, obviously. And here add the form control class, which we have seen before also. And you can add the ID as work and close it. Now close the select class. Now I'll add options and close it. Option would be, let's say, work from home job, temporary contractual job, or full-time permanent job. Full-time job if you like. So these are the options available for the users. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see we have our list got created. User can select and click submit. Now if you want to add multiple options for users, like you want users can select, yes, I want to, I can go for work from home as well as contractual job. For that you can add multiple attribute here and run it. Now you can see on pressing control keyboard, user can select multiple option. He or she can select all the three and click on submit for all the options. Now we will see how to add text area. To add text area, you need to use the text area element. Let's say I'll add it now. Let's say I'll add after last name. Here I should copy it. Rest you can see the same values are visible. Here I'll add for is equal to address, ID is equal to address. Now we want to add text area, so I'll remove everything here instead. Text area class is equal to form control, which you have seen before as well. You can set the number of rows in a text area so that user can easily add it. ID, as I have shown before, I'll add address only. Now I'll close the text area. So your user will have 7 rows to add the address, because address has a lot of text, so we can't add it in input type text. So it's a good practice to use text area. Now I'll run it and let's see what happens. As you can see, we have added 7 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is available for address. Oh, the name is last name. I should change it to address. Now student can add their address easily here. So now we will see how we can resize a form control. To resize a form control, you can use form control SM class for smaller control and form control LG class for larger control. SM is for small and LG is for large. Now let's see. So under class is equal to form control class, add form control SM. Now let's see what happens. Now I'll run it. Here you can see now you have a smaller form control input type text than this, because we added SM. Now I'll set it to LG and let's see what happens. Now you can see it is bigger than the second one because it was only the form control, and this is form control LG for larger form control. Now moving further, now we will see how to add range. Use input type range. Now I'll add it here and let's see what we can add here. I'll copy this and I'll add it here after the select. Now after the div one, because this div is for select. Now let's say I want it for expertise level. I'll set range here, and with that I'll set form control range. Now we have all these things. Let's add range here. Now I'll run it. On running, you can set the expertise level here. Okay, so now the last point we will see is how to add input type file. For that you need to use the same again. I'll set input type file now. For that, let's set resume here. Input type is equal to file, and here form control file, and here form control file is to be added. Now I'll set name is equal to file here because we want a file to be added, and this attribute will be used later. Now I'll run it. On running, here you can see choose file option is visible for users. Now if you want to add a border here to make it look good, because the value would be visible here, can add border attribute, in fact a border class. Now I'll run it again and let's see what happens. Now you have a border here, you can see. In this video we learned all about inputs in Bootstrap 4. We learned how to add form controls, input type text, input type password, checkbox, radio button, text area, select option. Here we also learn how we can add multiple select so the user can select more than one value at a time before clicking submit. Then we learn how we can resize form controls using form control SM class as well as form control LG class. Now after that we have set the expertise level using the range input type range. Then we have added option to add file, so that let's say a student want to add resume, then you can add the input type file option. In this video we will learn about list groups in Bootstrap 4. List group is basically an unordered list with list items. Let's say you need to set items like 1, 2, 3, 4, or items like products in which you have an image editor, testing tool, heat map tool, etc. You can list it according to list item using list groups in Bootstrap 4. So firstly we will see how we can create list groups. To create list groups you need UL element, and in that you need to list the class as list groups, whereas in the LI, which is your list items, you need to set the class as list group item class. Let's see how we can create a list group. Now here you can see we have our Bootstrap structure program. We have used CDN here, and with that we have set the container as div class is equal to container. This will provide a fixed width. Now we will see how we can create a basic list group. First let's add demo content. Let's add it to h2 and let's set it as the following are our products. Now I'll set a UL tag. Within that set the class as list group. Now set the LI elements. Now we have added 3 items. Let's add one more. Code formatted tool, let's say. Now you need to add the class as list group item to create a list group. This is for LI items. Now add it on every item. Now we will run it. Here you can see your basic list group is now created. If you want to add more, you can add more LI items and set the class as list group item. Now we have seen the first part. The next part is how to select the list group item. You can set and highlight the current item using the active class. Let's see how. You need to highlight the keyword checker tool. You need to set active here for the keyword checker tool. It will highlight it. I'll run it. Here you can see keyword checker tool is highlighted. In this way you can add it anywhere in any list item to highlight it. Now let's see how we can disable the list group item using the disabled class. Now let's say I'm setting it here. Now I'll run it. On running here you can see image editor tool is now light gray. That means it is disabled. Now we'll see how we can add list group with linked items. You need to use the list group item action class. Now we will add a link for every list group. It will look like a link and you can click on it. To add a list group with linked items, now you need to create links first using the A tag. Now I'll change it to div. With that I'll change it to A tag and add a link here. Now here add list group item action class, and we will close the A tag here. Now do the same for others. So now we have link items. Here you can see 4 of them. Now I'll close it because it's a div now. Now I'll run it. On running here you can see the same list is visible, but it is link. It is now a link. You can click on it and reach any link. In this way you can easily create a list group with link items. We use the list group item action class. Now moving further, here we will see how we can color list items using the contextual classes. Contextual classes basically are BG success, BG secondary, BG primary classes. But here we have list group item success, list group item secondary, and all of these classes for the same work. Now let's see how it works. If you want to add a blue colored list item, use primary, list group item, primary, and run it. Now you can see a blue colored list group item is visible. Now let's add different one for others. Let's add info here and run it. You can see we have different colors for list group item using the contextual classes. Now we will see how to color a list group with links. For that, this is a demo code, and now we have added the list group item action class as well for creating a list group with linked items. Now we will set the color. Now we'll run it. Here you can see after running the color has been changed. We have changed it for all of them. Now we will run it. On running, here you can see the color have been changed and we have a list group with link. So in this video we learn how to work with list groups in Bootstrap 4. We saw how we can create a list groups. We have used two classes. First one is list group and the second one is list group item. List group item is to set the items in list group. Then we have highlighted the current one using the active class and disabled it using the disabled class. We've also created list groups with linked items so that user can click on any of the list group item and reach another page using the list group item action class. So we have also colored list item using the contextual classes. In this video we'll be learning how we can create model in Bootstrap 4. Model is basically a dialog box which you can see, which you can generate on a button click, and it is generally visible on the top of the page. Like for example, you may have seen the JavaScript pop-up that you need to enable JavaScript on this web page, and this way you can create other models which is a dialog box, or you can also say that which is a pop-up window. So firstly we will see how we can create a model. We also need to create a model dialog, and with that we can set the model content as well as the header, title and footer for the model. With that we also see how we can fade a model and how we can resize a model. Firstly we will see how a model looks like, how a pop-up looks like on a web page. Here is your example. Here is a warning pop-up. Let's say I've used this for our example. When you will click on it, it will generate a model, which is you can see by default on the top of the page. It has a heading with warning, the text, restart the system to avoid any failed update, and a button to close it. It is also having an icon to close it. Now let's see what we have done. We have used all these classes here. Let's see one by one. Now we have a div class container that is a fixed width. We have set the container. I should close it first. Okay, so we have a button now. The button is visible. Text is warning for the button. With that we have set the class of the button to be btn info. This is to set the color for the button. Now we have used a data toggle attribute which is model, as well as a data target attribute. Here we have set the attribute as demo model, which is the ID which we use for the model div class, which is here. So this is our div for model. We have set the model dialog first, then under that model content is set. Under model content you can set the header, title as well as the body and footer for the model. So moving further, our header is under h4 and we have set the title under the header as warning, which is visible here. Then we have also set a button and we have added a HTML character which is and times is here the cross sign. So we have added another div class model header. So you can see in the header the text is visible, which is the title, as well as the icon to close is visible. That's why we have set the class to be closed. Then we will move on to the model body, which is this. Restart the system to avoid any failed updates. You can add any content here. You can also add a list here. Moving below, we have a footer here. Under footer you can set a button like I've set update failed button. You can set it like close it. To close it, because we have set the data dismiss attribute here, so it will close the pop-up. So I'll click on close and it has closed it. So this was our code through which we have set the model content, then we set header and title gets added in the header, then we set the close icon using and times character, HTML character, then comes the body and then the footer of the model. Now we will see how we can center the model dialog, because we have seen other classes till now, all of them. Now we'll see how to center it using model dialog centered class. Now I'll set it here. Now I'll run it. On running, now let's see, I'll click on warning and it is centered, not on the top. Why? Because we use the model dialog centered class. Now we have reached here. Now we'll see how we can fade model so that it looks like it is closing. For that you need to use the fade class. Now let's add the fade class here. Now I'll run it. Now let's click the warning again. Now I'll close it. Here you can see the fading effect is visible. Now if I'll remove the fade class, now I'll run it again. Now you can see the difference. Close. It closes instantly, but with the fade class, it is opening and closing using fade effect. Now we'll see how to resize the model. We can create a smaller one and the larger one model when compared with the default size. For a smaller one, use model SM class here under model dialog because we want a smaller model dialog. Now I'll run it. On running. Now you can see the pop-up box, the model is smaller than a default size. Now if I'll change it to LG, that is large, it will be larger than a default size. Now I'll run it. After running, I'll click on it. Now it is larger than the default size. In this way you can resize your model. So in this video we learn how to work with model in Bootstrap 4. Model is basically a pop-up or a dialog box. We created a model, we added a model dialog, we centered the model, we added model content using model content class, we added title and a header class. With that we have also set the body of the model and we have also set the footer. We have added the fade effect to the model as well using the fade class. The fade class will be affected when you will close as well as open the model. We have also set the size of the model. You can resize the model size, that would be smaller than the default as well as larger than the default size. Thank you for watching the video.